Hello, Laziali all over the world. The dream is over, but Lazio Lounge isn't. So we are back here to talk about the Champions League dream that sadly is over, Alasdair. Um, we talked about it already this week. We said that it was hard. We said that it was pretty much an impossible mission. Um, we had the opportunity, Alistair. One thing we mentioned in the last podcast is Lazio have to play the perfect game. And let's be honest, Bayern played really well, but Lazio was from a perfect game. And probably this is what made the difference at the end, right? I know we're going to talk about Ciro and the chance he missed, but we have to mention that all three goals Bayern scored, we can say that Lazio defense wasn't perfect in all of three occasions, right? So, yeah, probably with a perfect game, things would have went differently or not.
Possibly. I mean, I think this was more like the game that we expected to see to begin with. And I suppose it is a reminder, which was probably needed, of how well Lazio played in that first leg. I think because of the red cards, they maybe didn't get quite as much credit for that performance as they should have done. But even before then, I think the team showed a level of organization, focus, heart, really that we don't always see from them, and that when they do manage to find that, makes them such a difficult team to play. And I just feel that was lacking, and I can understand why. Um, it's a hugely difficult place to go, and Bayern's team is ridiculously talented. Sooner or later, that talent's going to come through. But it was a comfortable defeat in the end. There were a couple of moments you could maybe look at, Chiro's miss in particular, where you think, if that had gone the other way. But by full time, I thought, nah, the gap was too big. We got completely outplayed. And it would just really take our hat off to the team for the first leg. Making that team not have a single shot on target is incredible in retrospect.
You mentioned Ciro. Let's talk about that because he had a huge opportunity. 37 minute, I think it was, of the first half. Great chance. He missed that 2 minutes afterwards. Bayern Munich scored the first goal. It's true that if you go and check, there's a little bit of deflection. I don't remember if the leak with the header or another central defender, and this create a little bit of issue of lack of coordination from Ciro, who misses. And but I didn't like that much what happened afterwards. Everybody complaining about Ciro, Lazio fans saying Ciro is over, is finished, etc. Um, yes, it's not the Ciro we were used to see playing. Let's not forget that Lazio scored 8 goals this season in the Champions League, and 4 came from Ciro Immobile. And score against Bayern in the first leg, score twice against Celtic, score against Feyenoord, all decisive goal, all goal that allow Lazio to get to the past the group phase and Rory. So I think Ciro deserves more credit.
Yeah, I think it's just on the back of the Milan game and the chance he missed there as well, and just so used to him picking those opportunities away, I guess. And in a game of such fine margins where it was clear the chances weren't going to be coming thick and fast, you got to take those opportunities when they come. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any criticism like that is valid. I mean, it never really has been with Gino. He's earned the right to miss a couple of chances, but yeah, like I say, honestly, I don't think ultimately it would have made a difference, because Lazio started pretty well. I thought, like the first 20 minutes or so was pretty encouraging, because they were defending well, but they were actually managing to get on the ball, put a few passes together, show a few signs of threat on the counter and so on. But I just think over the 90 minutes, it was pretty clear Bayern's superiority. So yeah, I mean, look, it's how do you reflect on the whole thing? Because this is something Chiro was saying afterwards. We have to look at this and think that what the journey the whole European campaign has been a great run. It's been a success, and it has. And like, it's disappointing for it to end, but it was a lot closer than last time we played Bayern.
Yeah, and it's
the
this
experience it gives them in Europe is massive, I think, going forward.
Yeah, and it's funny or it's sad that this time it looks like a disaster. Last time it looks like Lazio did a great match, etc. I don't like this criticism coming from Lazio website, Lazio fan, etc. I don't know if they are attacking Sarri for this or finding a way to attack Sarri for this. Let's not forget, this year Lazio never lost at home. We beat Bayern Munich at home. We drew against Atletico Madrid. I mean, we won. What was it? Celtic away, Celtic at home, Feyenoord at home. We beat Bayern Munich. So 4 wins. It's massive. Let's not forget, because people tend to forget, Lazio was in the 3rd spot. So the favorite to qualify were Atletico Madrid and Feyenoord. And we passed. So let's give credit to this team, without forgetting that we played against AC Milan on Friday. So we lost some energy there. And in the last 2 games, I thought Lazio played much better than we were used to see in the last month or so, right? Against Milan, we talked about it, but even even Tuesday, I thought the first half in particular, Lazio played better, played well. And again, we are talking about Chiro's mistake, but what do you make about the first goal? I thought Provedel wasn't great Tuesday night. I thought Felipe Anderson would have, and who was it on the other post? I don't remember if Pellegrini or someone else. It's a corner kick. First thing you have to do when someone punches out, you have to run out of the box and put everybody offside. They didn't. So, if you concede 2 easy goals to Bayern Munich, you're going to lose that game.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to what I said at the start about the focus thing. It's definitely easier said than done, but I don't think they concede those goals in the first leg because they were so on it.
No.
They were so laser focused about where they needed to be, the shape they needed to be in, how they were playing together as a unit. I don't know if perhaps there being as many changes as there were muddled that a little bit. It was a bit surprising to me to see Pellegrini and Vecino both in the team. And I'm not blaming them for the result by any means, but it wasn't the same kind of settled 11 that we've kind of got used to. So yeah, you just can't afford any mistakes. I don't think there was any huge glaring individual errors from any players, but it's just kind of a collection of things, and they found themselves under pressure too often. It could have been worse, really. Bayern were finding a lot of those spaces in the kind of edge of the box for the cutback, which I wonder if they've studied, because we've conceded so many goals from that this season, and especially when Ravella's not playing, because I think he's excellent at actually anticipating those and cutting them out. But without him, we are a bit weak there. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the highlights of all the chances put together, and you haven't watched the game over 90 minutes, you suddenly think, wow, that could have been kind of 5-6 quite easily. But it wasn't. And 3-1 as an aggregate score against a team like Bayern, there's no disgrace in that whatsoever.
Not even close. I mean, let's not forget that people put Bayern Munich in the top 3 to win the Champions League this year. It's Manchester City, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich. And afterwards, there is Inter. So I think we have to give credit to the team. Yes, obviously, nobody's happy losing 3-0. And I thought in the second half, when Bayern Munich at a certain point start just, keeping the ball and let the time pass, we should have tried something better. And, people criticize a lot Ciro Immobile. I get that. But you bring in Tati Castellano and he pretty much doesn't create nothing. And this is not the first time. Obviously, it's not easy. Bayern is winning, they're in control, etc., etc. but you're fresh. You come in, and I was expecting to see at least trying to do something. I don't know. Weeks go by, and this 80 million spent on Castellano looks every day worse than before. It's like this is Morici 2.0 again. Don't know.
Were you a bit disappointed about in terms of the changes in general? I thought that. I mean, look, it was a real punch in the stomach, the second goal coming right before half time and the way it did, and it was just absolutely gutting. But even so, I think Sarri even said something like this after the game, that it was kind of like they knew that the task was too big after that, effectively. And you look at it and you're like, it wasn't, though. It really wasn't. They were one goal away from leveling the tie, even when they're 3-0 down. There's 20 minutes left to get 2 goals. Stranger things have happened. But I felt like just the whole occasion, the whole event meant that the team didn't seem to really believe they could do it or have a way back into the game. So if I would pick out something to be particularly disappointed with, I guess it'd be the ending, because they never really fired a shot in response.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Sarri, but I read the interview Zaccagni gave after the game, and it was really disappointing from my point of view. He said after the second goal, we knew it was over. He didn't say we gave up, but we knew it was finished. It wasn't. With one goal, you were going to extra time, so it was not finished at all. But reading these quotes and seeing how Zaccagni played in the second half, for Zaccagni was over. It was clear he didn't do nothing in the second half. I was so annoyed with Zaccagni's performance in the second half. I thought he played well in the first half. He did create some chances. In the second half, you can see a player who already gave up, who probably was already thinking, well, what type of film am I going to watch on the plane flying back Rome? Because he didn't do nothing. And again, and the other thing, Alasdair, is were they really convinced we're going to Munich and we're not going to concede a single goal? I mean, you should think, well, there's a big chance they're going to score a goal and we're going to fight to score another one back.
But it probably comes back to the theme over the last 2 years, doesn't it? Which is that Lazio are pretty weak in 2 situations. One, when they concede first, because they're not great at coming back, and 2, away from home. So when you do concede goals and you're away from home, already mentally, no matter who you're playing, the team is probably thinking we're in trouble. I know Celtic was the outlier there, but against a team like Bayern Munich, I think that is a locked-in mental problem that's been there for the last couple of seasons, really, is that if the team isn't keeping a clean sheet, and if they're going behind first especially, and particularly away from home, then they often don't look like they really think they can do it.
Yeah, but then you have to get rid of these players.
Well, let's get on to that then. I mean, this was the interesting post-match stuff that Sarri's talking about, casting a bit of doubt over his future, talking about the squad reaching the end of its cycle. What do you think of all that?
Can I ask you before what you think about the question? I mean, you lost against Bayern Munich, and the question is, well, after this game, does this game change your future or the future of Lazio? I mean, you lost against Bayern Munich. I mean, 95% of European team would have lost against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to that thing of this was seen as this period, like the season goes one way or another between Serie A and the Champions League. And after messing everything up in Serie A, there was still a belief that if Lazio can reach a quarterfinal of a Champions League, this season can be looked at as a success. Whereas if you're going out in the last 16 and you're down in 9th in Serie A, it's not looking great. So I can understand where the question comes from, because there'd been so much talk about that beforehand, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but if you win the Coppa Italia,
Well, this is the thing. What I think if the club finishes in European positions and wins a trophy, it is still a successful season. I think the bar was set really high last year because finishing second and now, going on a good run in the Champions League. But this team has been so maddeningly inconsistent all year long.
Yeah,
And it's been really difficult to understand what this team even is. So even particularly with that in mind, winning a trophy and qualifying for Europe, be that Europa League or Conference League, I think you have to take that as a success, don't you?
yeah. I mean, obviously, we're talking about Lazio, not Real Madrid. So winning a trophy, it's. I mean, how many seasons did we save for Inzaghi when he won a Coppa Italia? It should be at least fair that if Sarri wins a Coppa Italia, then it's a positive season. Otherwise, it wasn't even with Inzaghi. I think for the second year in a row, Lazio have to do this time probably bigger revolution. I was expecting something more last summer, but I can understand Sarri that didn't want it with the Champions League competition coming up this season. Lazio is the second oldest squad in Serie A, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
We have
average age of 27.3, apparently.
We have a lot of starting players that are above 30. Ciro Immobile, Luis Alberto, Felipe Anderson, Marusic. And these four players, I don't think it's a coincidence, had an under par season. Can we say that? Especially Luis Alberto, from my point of view. I think you have to look and not only bring youngsters in the team, but also see who still has it. I don't think Luis Alberto is focused on the team anymore. It's not going to be easy to sell Luis Alberto. He's 31 and get a lot of money out of that. But I think first, Alasdair, you have to make a choice. Who's going to be your next manager? Because that's the starting choice you have to make. If it's Sarri, then you have to choose and pick the players he wants. If it's going to be someone else, then obviously it's going to be a different market. But I think you have to change and, I mean, sign some 21 years old player. I mean, Bayern Munich started with a Pavlovic, who is 2004, right? Lazio hasn't got 2004 in the squad this year.
Well, I was I was about to say that although I just said there that the average age is just over 27, which it is, that actually is worse than it looks. It's worse than that it sounds, because if you actually look at the squads, the ages of the players, the only ones who are 27 or under who actually play regularly is Kamada, Casale, Castellanos, Pellegrini, Guendouzi, Gila, Rovella, and Isaacson. And really, apart from Guendouzi and Gila and Rovella, maybe, none of those players are kind of nailed on starters in this team at the moment. Isaacson obviously is one for the future, who's doing pretty well. But there are so many of the players in this team: Zaccagni, Romagnoli, Provedel, Cataldi, Patrick, Anderson, Lazzari, Alberto, Immobile. All these guys are way older than that. So we are relying on older players more. And it's not as simple as that. There's nothing wrong with having an older squad. The team with the oldest squad in the league is Inter, significantly. And Inzaghi likes an older squad, as we know, and they are absolutely killing it this year. So it's not always as simple as saying you just bring the age down and everything's all right. But there is clearly work to be done there of how you do both bring the age down, but also bring the age down to create a new kind of starting 11 rather than just a younger squad. And I think when it comes to Sarri, the question there is, does he have the will and the energy to be the guy to do that? Because he's been at Lazio for 3 years now. And we've seen these kind of, we've talked about before, this kind of like coming and going with Tare, with Sarri, with Lotito, and these kind of the wars of words that occasionally happen. So there's clearly some sort of difference of opinion, regardless of how serious it is or not. And I do wonder how he feels about that, whether he thinks a job that big to kind of revolutionize, like you say, a squad, does he want to do that here where he's going to have to fight? Like he was saying the other week, if he wants player A and he ends up with player D, is he in the right place to try and create that?
Well, he said it, I don't remember when, after a game at the Stadio Olimpico, that he would be interested in a youngster project with Lazio. Obviously, the biggest issue I have with a young project, Alasdair, is that it's not that Lazio tomorrow switch to Empoli. You have to find players that doesn't put you in the relegation battle, right? You have to sign players that are European level, I would say, at least. It's not that next year Lazio is going to fight for relegation. So you have to sign good players. And, Pablo is the perfect example. He's 2004, I think. And he's starting for Bayern Munich. And in the second half, now probably the saddest thing is, in the second half, they brought in a 2005, and Lazio brought in Pedro, who is 37, It's like
he's winning the Champions League in 2005.
That's the most disappointing thing.
And also, it costs a lot of money to do this. I mean, that's the main problem, is that if Lazio's Primavera team, their own youth system, isn't producing the talent to be able to do that, to promote players, which it isn't, then Lotito's going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money in order to bring in younger players to sort out that issue. And we know he doesn't really like to do that.
Yes, and that's true. That's the biggest issue. But this summer, we're going to have 60 million euros coming from the Champions League, which is something that Lazio never had. Now, I'm not saying that with 60 million euros, you're going to be able to sign 6 youngsters, very good, but 3, 4, you should be able, especially if you have a very good scout system that is able. I mean, the point is, you're not going to be able to fetch the rising star in the Premier League. You have to go in the Kazakhstan League, Georgian League, Argentina, probably Brazil,
Scotland.
Wow.
Hey, we've had hugely successful exports recently.
Yeah, you're right, Fred.
I mean, look, Bologna signed Lewis Ferguson for 2 million.
Yeah, that's what Lazio have to do. But the other problem is, the other question we have to make, Alasdair, is, okay, you sign this 6, 7, let's call it like that, youngster. Then Sarri has to be obliged to play them, because if they stay on the bench, it's useless, right? They're not going to grow. They're not going to improve, and they're not going to be able to show that they are able to play and compete at that level. I mean, Gila was the youngest player we had on the squad on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure that's right. And till Salernitana Lazio, he didn't play a minute this year. And he only played because we had both Casale and Romagnoli out. And now he's a starter, and he's probably the best defender we're having now. So if we go that route, Sarri has to be pushed, forced, I don't know, to start this youngster. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere, right?
But it requires a level of patience, that's the thing. I think if you are wanting a revolution, because if you're wanting a revolution, you can't do that. You can't throw in all these young players and expect that we're suddenly going to be, fighting on 3 fronts, having a great season. I don't think that will happen. It's not happening with a really experienced and talented team that's achieved a lot already. So that's the thing that I worry about too. I don't think the Lazio fan base has the patience to watch Sarri try and play a bunch of kids who are losing a lot.
Yeah, but at the same point, we are not going to play the Primavera. It's not going to be 11 2-year-old kids playing. They have to be a couple of experienced players, right? I don't know, Ciro could be still the captain, etc. But it's not the Eredivisie. You cannot win with playing with a full squad of under 21. You have to have a mix.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lazio has gone too far on the other side. We have far too many 30 years old players starting. But yeah, go on.
I'm not sure I agree. To be honest, personally, I think that the blend this season isn't that bad. Like, I don't think you want a team of kids, and I don't think you want a team of pensioners. I think you want a blend always of experience and youth. And at the moment, if you do have a team with where Gila is a great thing to have emerged this season because of his youth as well, and suddenly he looks like a real prospect. But if you do have a team with Gila in it, with Rovella, with Guendouzi, with Isaacson, then those are four really, talented players, 24 or under, and you can build a team around them with some more experienced guys. I don't think it needs to be one or the other, and I don't think Lazio need to go away from the idea of signing. When we spoke a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned the Berardi, Zielinski, those kind of guys. I don't think you need to turn away from opportunities to sign great players like that just for this one reason. I think it has to be a blend of both things and just what's best to build the strongest squad.
Yeah, but I think the Rovella example is perfect. I mean, Rovella is the perfect player we have to sign. Young and talented, right? This summer, we signed Rovella, who's young and talented. Isaacsen, who has to improve, but he's young and talented again. Guendouzi, who's 24. Castellano, who's not scoring, but he's still 24. I think that's the perfect route we did last year, and we have to continue on this side. And we said it in September, right? We thought this was the best transfer market Lazio did because we got and signed quality player, but younger player, obviously. And this is my biggest question mark because Sarri asked for Berardi and Zielinski, who were both 29 years old. And Lazio is the second oldest club in Serie A. I understand. So the thing is, you sign Berardi and Zielinski, we're winning this year. We're not thinking a lot about the future. With Isaacsen, Rovella, Guendouzi, etc., you're saying, probably we're not winning this year, but in 2-3 years' time, we're going to be a better team. So the question is, will Sarri buy this idea or not? I think this is the perfect route. Obviously, we signed even Kamada, who's 27. So I'm not saying, hey, we have to sign the River Plate under 21 team. But if we sign 6 players, 4 could be under 24, and then you can sign 27 years old. But my question is, seeing how Luis Alberto and Maruzic are playing, I don't think they are willing to sell Lazio. They are focused on Lazio. So that's where we have to change, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the bigger revolution of this squad wouldn't be to massively change the age profile or anything like that. It would be to move on from Ciro, Alberto, the absolute cornerstones of the last 5-6 years. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but that would be the biggest revolution because those guys are so completely anchored in this squad and have been through everything under Inzaghi and under Sarri. That would be the biggest revolution, would be for the senators, so to speak, of this squad to move on. And like you say, it could happen. The Ciro to Saudi rumors aren't going away. Alberto, every transfer window is the same, isn't it? But I think that will be the most interesting thing this summer because it feels like the likeliest summer for that to happen that I can remember, really.
Yeah, but I would be more willing to accept Luis Alberto leaving. He's not playing at his best this season, rather than Ciro leaving. Ciro is not the player we remember, still top scorer in Serie A and in Champions League by far. So if you want to get rid of Ciro, you have to sign a very good striker, and I don't think Castellanos is that player still. So,
Yeah.
and the other question is, Sarri said, "I'm not sure about my future. Everything can change." Who would you bring on to change if you're moving on from Sarri? The names I heard are not very encouraging, right? Palladino, Gilardino, Tudor. Are you convinced they're gonna change something? They're gonna be better than Sarri?
No. I think in every case it's kind of a bit of a gamble. Gilardino and Palladino, to be honest, they are both quite interesting coaches who are doing, I think, quite underrated work in Serie A. But there's no doubt that it's a bit of a gamble. They're both quite young, quite inexperienced, whether you would draft them in. And, Inzaghi was promoted from within and built such success in his period that Lazio then were in a position to go out and make a statement by appointing a coach of Sarri's caliber and reputation. So I don't think we can rule out that the club would want to do that again if they moved on. The question would be who they could get, who would want to take the job and who would be on that similar level. Because I think we naturally lean towards, right, who's doing well in kind of mid-table, who's overperforming within Italy, maybe other Italians abroad. So on former players, there's been a bit of talk around that with Scaloni or Almeida or whatever. But, I do wonder if Sarri left, if that's the club, the direction the club would go in, or if they would try and go for a bigger name.
I think the only solution if Sarri leaves is Sergio Conceição. He has the experience. He knows very well.
Would he take it though? I think he's been waiting for a really big job.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he's leaving Porto. I think he's ready for the next chapter. And Lazio could be the next big club for Sergio Conceição. You think we are not big enough?
No, but what I mean is he has been making a name for himself in the Champions League year after year after year at Porto. He's been there for quite a while now. And as a result, he's been linked with some quite big jobs, as far as I remember, including the Inter job, Atletico Madrid, teams like that. So I think if Lazio aren't in the Champions League next season, you are relying a little bit on the emotional link. And that's clearly there, because after they beat Arsenal, he went and said Forza Lazio to the Sky Sport cameras. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be a really good appointment, a really popular appointment. But I think we would be relying a little bit on his personal links to the club too. But absolutely, that's something to take advantage of if it's there. I mean, loads of that team have become coaches.
Yeah, and that's the point. I mean, I think at this stage we shouldn't be going for a bet like Gilardino. We should be going for an experienced manager like Sergio Conceição. It's complicated, but hey, if you want to make a step forward, it's not going to be easy. So he's leaving the club, so I think that's a huge opportunity for us. I think that's the best option. He's been working with a club who didn't have a lot of money. He had the opportunity to give chance to a lot of youngsters. His son as well. So I think he knows very well. Lazio fans adore him. So I think he would be the perfect fit.
Yeah, it would be great if they could get him. I think that would be a great appointment. He also knows those markets. You're talking about South American or Portuguese market. I mean, that's a good one for Lazio, you would have thought too. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out with Sarri. I mean, I think that the club right now, just to kind of start wrapping things up a bit, I think it's just all about getting to this international break kind of with a bit of momentum again. And games against Udinese and Frosinone, they won't be easy, but on paper that is a a bit of a relief compared to the run of fixtures we've just had.
Yeah.
And if you can get to the international break to reassess a little bit with 6 points in the bank from those, then you can really start to consider what the remaining ambitions are and where you're at.
Alasdair, you mentioned the Simone Inzaghi, that he started from the youth academy, etc. We have to talk about what happened in Munich, because Fabiani offered a job to Serdar Lulic to become manager of one of the youth academy Lazio team. I think that should be interesting, and that should be the future of all former Lazio player if they want to become a manager. Start with I don't know if he's going to start with the Giovanissimo or something like that, and then if it goes well, reach the Primavera, and then have opportunity in the first squad. What do you think about Lulic going back and becoming maybe a future manager of Lazio?
It'd be cool. It'd be interesting to see what style of manager he is, because you can imagine, he used to run so much that you can imagine him being quite an Inzaghi style coach, running up and down the touchline and getting told off all the time for leaving his box. But he seems quite a calm character off the pitch, so maybe he'd more like dressed in a suit, kind of Ancelotti style, sitting back, letting things unfold. I don't know, but yeah, I like the idea. Obviously, fans will love that idea. It has happened a bit. I mean, is Tommaso Rocchi still in the under 16s?
Yeah, he came back this year. So,
right.
I think that's something the club should do much more. Even not only as a manager. It looks like they offer the same position at the Stefan Radu. So I think inside the team, you should hire someone, a former Lazio player, sport director or club manager, something like that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you've been campaigning for this for as long as I can remember, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it has happened on and off, hasn't it? Tari was a former player. Angelo Peruzzi was in as a club manager. This does happen. But yeah, I think definitely kind of something, rewarding legends with roles if they're suited for them is quite a nice way of going about it, for sure. Yeah, I think that'll take a bit of time. I wouldn't replace Sarri with Lulic.
No, it's a little bit too early, I guess. Alasdair, before we finish, I know you wanted to talk about something not very great that happened in Munich.
Yeah, and well, I think I don't really want to talk about it. I don't like talking about these things when they happen, but unfortunately they do happen now and again, which is that there's videos going viral on social media of a group of fans doing fascist salutes and all the usual crap really in a beer hall in Munich. And I think, we've spoken about these problems time and again, really, over the years, and how frustrating it is as a normal Lazio fan that these guys kind of hijack the image of the club, and that's what gets circulated everywhere as soon as they do one of these kind of abhorrent deeds that they do. And it's frustrating to me really more that there's not been any response to it. And I think from what I've seen, thankfully there are like organized fan groups now who are making their voices heard and speaking out, having, a voice for the reasonable Lazio fan, and Lazio Libertà, who we did a podcast with recently, are a great example of that. But it shouldn't really be down to them. I feel like the club really should be distancing themselves more from this kind of behavior and trying to at least look like they're trying to change the image of the club. It's so frustrating, and it's never going to change, Vittorio, until they start trying to kind of concoct some sort of plan, I guess, to try and clean up the club's image, to try and do something, to try and get rid of these fans, get them out of games. I mean, they can't be accepting that kind of behavior. I think that is as simple as that for me.
Yeah, as I said you before, there's not a plan. There's no someone ahead of the communication now of Lazio. So there's no planning, there's no structure, there's nothing. And so there's nobody who said, hey, we have to condemn this episode. It's ruining our image. around the world, which is already damaged by a lot of other episodes. So yeah,
from the same group of people. It's always the same group of people. So this is the thing that frustrates me. It's like, if that's why I said to you before we started, like, if their idea was that you don't give oxygen to this behavior, so by ignoring it, it means that you're not like acknowledging it and giving, promoting it in a way. I just don't believe that. I just think everyone's already seen it, and we've been enjoying this great Champions League run and so on. And there were 3,000 Lazio fans in Munich, I think, and most of them. There are plenty of videos of fans just having a nice time and having a beer and enjoying themselves. But this is what people are going to remember and associate with Lazio's trip to Munich now. And I just feel like the club is not doing nearly enough to try and combat that and clean up its image.
I hope not. I hope it's not what people's going to remember. But again, we talked about the club manager missing. There's a head of communication missing. There's a plan missing. It shouldn't be difficult to recognize these people and ban it from the stadium forever. The problem is you don't have the focus to do it, because it took like 4 weeks to find who throw the bottle to the Roma player in the last derby. 4 weeks. Come on, that must be a joke. They should have identified the guy after 1 day. So again, we talk about the transfer market. We don't have enough body there doing the job. Same thing in the communication. It's embarrassing that Lazio and Libertà is doing this instead of the club. Like it's embarrassing that we are doing this for English listener and not the club. Communication of Lazio is outdated. It's, back in the 80s. So unfortunately, it's not a surprise. And it's a shame, absolutely a shame.
Yeah, and I think for, international listeners, sometimes it can feel a bit isolating and a bit heartbreaking, really, when you see stuff like this happening, and it's nothing to do with your own worldview. And what I would say is that it is a minority. That's for sure. And okay, it's quite a large and loud minority who behave really badly, but it is still a minority. And if you speak to normal Lazio fans, if you come to Rome and actually spend time, that's not the world view, or it's not connected to the club in this way that people try and perpetrate. In my experience, anyway, there's no inherently fascist element to being a Lazio fan at all. If there was, I would have been out of here years ago. So yeah, I think it's just a shame. I feel like the fans are unprotected by the club, and yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about it, really.
Yeah, I think we talked about this problem already before, and obviously social media doesn't help, because it takes just to upload a video from an idiot and it goes viral, and it looks like they're very happy to be recorded. They're proud of what they're doing. So the problem is Lazio fan gets the blame, not those idiots there. So this is the biggest issue, and Lazio's not doing nothing because, again, they don't have enough body to cover everything, unfortunately. So yeah, we hope Lazio will start doing something going forward. But yeah, let's finish here. Let's focus on Lazio Udinese next Monday. Again, not a weekend game for Lazio. This is going to be the last week, though, I think so. I don't know if Frosinone Lazio will be on Friday or no.
They haven't dates now, but I can't remember.
We're playing on Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, that's better.
And there's Italy-Scotland this Saturday, I think, right, in Rome. You're going to be with a lot of friends.
Absolutely. Finally, some reinforcements. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
We're going to be looking forward to Lazio. We're going to be looking forward instead for Lazio Frosinone, Lazio Udinese. Thanks everybody for listening. Rate and review the podcast, please. Thanks to our Patreon membership starts at $2 a month. Patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. And we'll be back probably Tuesday after Lazio Udinese. Take care, guys.
Cheers.